I do feel pressure in terms of how do we make sure that we have good packages long term to keep these teams here.
This morning on Inside Kansas Politics, the border war heats up. Missouri now taking a swing with their own plan, but which state will the teams choose? And is it worth the cost? Both sides weighing in this morning. Plus,
today it's life or death.
A crowd demanding answers as lawmakers in D.C. are looking at cuts to Medicaid. What to know about the latest plan and why it has some people in Kansas so upset.
And later on, a health expert weighs in on some of the biggest changes on the Hill and how it could impact you. But first, that border war over a plan to keep the Chiefs and Royals. It's what everyone's talking about. You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung.
And I'm Rob Hughes. Glad you're here. Now, Missouri's special session kicked off this week. The Inside Baseball are inside the huddle, of course, with this. Even more exciting. Now, Missouri had a special session this week coming out with a plan rivaling Kansas's offer.
Now, Kansas is offering to pay 70% of construction costs of a new stadium through Star Bonds. So far, Missouri is only offering 50%. That bill would pay for a new or renovated stadium.
And Kansas, meanwhile, has given a June 30th deadline, which lawmakers say will not be extended. We did speak with a Kansas lawmaker who believes that Kansas is a better fit for both teams.
One of our strengths in Kansas is that we disagree on a lot of things, but Democrats and Republicans come together when it comes to doing business in this state. We are smart enough to know how to grow our state and how to grow our economy and put those differences aside, and Missouri just doesn't seem to have that type of collaboration.
Now, the bill in Missouri does not have the words Royals or Chiefs in it. Last week, the Royals confirmed that an affiliate of the ball club purchased land in Overland Park, indicating the team may be preparing for a move across the state line.
Now, we do have some people that are excited about this change and potentially them crossing over to state lines of Kansas. But on the other hand, you have people that are skeptical about whether this will really pay off. So we have Legislative Director for AFP Kansas, Michael Austin, in with us. And Michael, what do you think about these changes?
Well, Rebecca, Rob, first off, thank you so much for having me. As for these changes, we've been through this for almost a year now. And, AFP Kansas has made their position, pretty clear. We don't think Star Bonds are the best economic tool in order to entice these teams to come by. But what I've noticed over the time is didn't matter whether you were for, having these teams come in or not. We did kind of find that for Kansas, we're kind of being strung along. A lot of folks have just noted that, we're the nerdy girl in a teen movie. They're courting us, but they never really are interested, or at least it doesn't seem that way. And lawmakers, of course, don't want to extend it past June. We were initially told that the decision would be made by the end of 2024. Then it was March of 25, and now we're here. So I think it goes without saying the Star Bond bill is passed, but clearly it's an opportunity for reform if we ever move forward. And if the Chiefs and Royals decide to stay in Missouri, then I think it's a sign that we definitely need to do something different here in Kansas.
I mean, what do they say, Michael? You want to dance with the girl you brought to the dance, right? That type of thing. so arguably this could be a more structured plan than what we've seen from Kansas in the past, Michael. Now, there's a June 30th deadline, like we mentioned. It's a minimum $1 billion investment for a stadium of at least 30,000 seats, right? Now, how does this not mitigate the risk associated with previous underperforming Star Bonds projects? Like you mentioned, you're not a big fan of them.
Well, and that's the question, right? As an example, there was news maybe about a day or two ago out in Illinois. The Chicago Fire, the soccer team up there, just announced that they were going to build a brand new soccer stadium to the tune of $700 million, and it was going to be privately funded. Now, I bring that example up to say Illinois has Star Bonds on the books, and yet in that particular example, they're going to pay $700 million privately and not use the program in any way, shape, or form. Another example would be here at home down in Wichita. Wichita has, of course, Star Bonds as well, and they're paying about $2 million a year towards their Star Bonds, but in those stadiums, they're seeing declining visitor traffic. And even a couple of weeks ago, you have city leaders saying that they were experiencing a shortfall. Why are you experiencing a shortfall? Well, it could be in part because you have sales tax revenues not going to city government, but instead being siphoned off to pay for this bond debt. So there are obviously plenty of examples that really bring some questions as to whether Star Bonds are the right tool. It doesn't mean you can't have economic development. By all means, we love to have businesses grow in Kansas, but there clearly has to be the right way to do it. And other places are saying Star Bonds are not it.
Well, how this plan is currently structured, where it relies on the revenue that's generated within that stadium district, so sales tax from tickets, also concessions, alcohol. How does this not ensure that taxpayers are protected from financial risk?
It doesn't necessarily, and that's all the reason why, at least after last year's special session in Kansas, we really tried to get some reforms into the STAR bond package. Clawbacks, exactly what you're highlighting. How can we make sure that taxpayers are protected if this deal ever goes south? So in our reform package, we put those types of provisions in there. We also tried to protect some property owners by limiting eminent domain, and we wanted to make sure that if you're going to put a STAR bond, you better pull in people from out of state. You don't want to be recycling Kansans that already live here and paying. So we put a reform package together beautifully. It got out of the Senate. It even passed out of the House Commerce, but ultimately the House chamber did not decide to take that up. But if the Chiefs and Royals decide to stay in Missouri, then we think that going back to the table and really reforming STAR bonds is the best way to go forward.
You bring a great perspective. You want to have the right economic tool for this, so to speak, as you mentioned, Michael. Now, just think of all the economic activity, right? We could generate through new jobs, more tourism. So how can we afford to pass up the opportunity, especially when there's similar incentives to keep teams in Missouri?
Well, sure. So I guess when I hear that question, and I'm an economist by trade, it's all about creating an environment that grows, right? Instead of figuring out what I can give this particular business, I would rather ask the question, how can I make Kansas one of the best states to have a business, or the best, or should I say cheapest places to live? And that means you have to talk about, workforce development. You have to talk about regulations. You have to talk about taxes, make sure government spending is going into the right things. So I guess I'm more focused on how do we create a Kansas that benefits everyone? Because if you can do that, then it would be a no-brainer for any sports team to come to Kansas and stay.
So still kind of against them coming here because of the risk of the STAR bonds package that's being utilized in this, right?
No, I would revise that. I would say I would love for the Chiefs and the Royals to come here. I would love to see them on Sunday or any other day, but how they get here matters just as important as them coming here, period. I'm completely fine if Clark Hunt wants to help and create a brand new stadium here in Kansas City or anywhere else in Kansas, but I would recommend that it be privately funded. Don't put it off the back of taxpayers. Don't risk our state credit rating, and nothing. We would all be better off that way.
But in terms of the long-term impact of having something like this, this would also play a huge role in attracting major events outside of sports. So in terms of the strategic investment that the state is looking at for its long-term economic development, how do you see that not as sound?
No, I see that most certainly can play a role. By all means, you can have an expo center or a stadium, and it could entertain sports teams, it could entertain concerts and different events, and it all just goes to show that it doesn't necessarily need to be done on taxpayers, right? If it's economically sound without taxpayers, then you don't need taxpayers at all. If you do need taxpayers in order to finance this deal, then maybe that suggests it's not economically sound on its own. So the question has nothing to do with taxpayers. It all has to do with the business the deal in and of itself. Is it a sound policy, or a sound economic deal to work through, or do you need help? And if you need help, is it really something that we should be pursuing with our resources?
I do want to ask you real quick, kind of a follow-up, Michael. You mentioned some of the STAR bonds projects that haven't done well in the state. But what about, like, say, the Legends or Children's Mercy Park? There have been a couple that have done pretty good. But do you think that still would not apply here, trying to get the Chiefs or Royals over?
Well, the question then is, right, why is it that some have failed and some have not? And you have to look that over the past almost now 30 years since the STAR bond project has been implemented, we've seen about 20 to 30 projects, and yet the only successes we could talk about is maybe the Legends. Whereas I can name to you about 10 or 20 different projects that have not brought in enough revenue, or other projects that are bringing in revenue but are so slow it would take roughly 100 years for that bond to be paid off. So, you have to weigh the bad versus the good, and I would say that the bad and the risk would suggest that we not move forward with this particular tool.
All right, Michael, thank you so much. Over in D.C. and here in Kansas, some people are taking aim at Medicaid cuts in President Trump's big, beautiful bill.
But others are defending the president's plan. Reaction from both sides coming up. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Grace Med Health Clinic is your home for complete, compassionate care. From medical visits to vision screenings, dental care, behavioral health support, and a fully equipped pharmacy, we're here to meet all your health needs. Our dedicated team of providers and staff work together to make every visit welcoming and stress-free. Because at Grace Med, you're not just a patient, you're part of our family. Call 785-861-8800 to schedule your appointment. Grace Med Health Clinic, compassionate care for all.
At Briggs Auto Group, we're proud to be your trusted dealership. Now's the time to trade in and upgrade your current vehicle. Or let us buy your car hassle-free, fair, and competitive. Whether you're looking to sell or trade in, Briggs Auto Group makes it simple and stress-free. Come experience our first-class care before and after the purchase. Come see us today at Briggs Auto Group, where trust matters and customers are number one.
Hey, look what's going on at Briggs Auto. Briggs!
Start your morning with soft, buttery, fresh-baked kolaches because you deserve more than just okay. At American Kolache, we make breakfast better. This is eating upgraded. Open till 2 at 5938 Southwest 17th Street in Topeka.
It's more than a move. It's a new job for her. A new baseball team for him. And for Badger, it's a new yard with more room to roam. It's more than a move, and we're more than a truck.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. President Trump's big, beautiful bill is packing a punch for some people here in Kansas.
Their main concern, cuts to Medicaid. Now, the GOP-led big, beautiful bill passed the U.S. House by a razor-thin margin, only one vote. And local activists are calling out one Kansas representative who voted to pass the bill. Now, dozens gathered outside the office of Kansas Representative Derek Schmidt.
Yeah, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that if the bill passes, at least 7 million people will lose Medicaid health insurance.
We need Medicaid. We need Medicaid for medical equipment, especially because medical equipment, these chairs are like $200,000, if not more. So Medicaid is very important that it sticks around.
The U.S. Senate plans to vote on the bill before the 4th of July.
Now, also upset over this big, beautiful bill, Elon Musk. Musk and President Trump clashing on social media this week. Their relationship now taking a sour turn. It started as a disagreement over Trump's big, beautiful bill, with Musk calling it an abomination. He posted on X claiming the president is in the files connected to sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. President Trump, however, has denied any ties to him.
And prior to that post, the president hit back on Truth Social, saying Musk, quote, went crazy. Now, Trump believes the bill's removal of clean energy tax credits, including support for electric vehicles, sparked the fight. Well, Musk has now made dozens of posts on his X account attacking Trump. Our Washington bureau spoke to Kansas Senator Roger Marshall on the feud and the impact of the bill. Here's his response.
It's a non-event. I don't care a bit what Elon is saying right now. We had an incredible positive meeting with the president yesterday. We've got a mountain here we're trying to climb, and we're not going to let anything get in our way.
Well, the bill is now in the hands of the Senate, where a few Republicans are siding with Musk. And when we come back, we're sitting down with experts who are weighing in on some of the health changes in this big, beautiful bill and coming from the Trump administration.
Stay with us. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
The people that I represent have had serious injuries or deaths in the family.
Being able to be there for someone and have that feeling of providing for them.
Being able to help them through that process and relieve some of the stress that comes from that kind of uncertainty.
Finding the truth for my clients and solving their problems.
I became a lawyer to make a difference in people's lives and getting my clients there and getting them compensation and letting them know that there's somebody there fighting for them. It's really rewarding.
Since 1992, Prairie Stone has been a landscaping staple in the Manhattan area. Professional, unique designs, attention to detail, and quality customer service are the cornerstones of our company. Give Prairie Stone a call today.
It's Champion Windows Anniversary Sale, and we're gifting the presents to you with 40% off Comfort 365 windows. Now's the time to upgrade your old windows that are driving up your energy bills. For over 72 years, Champion has built and installed high-quality windows for our customers, all with a lifetime warranty. With so many styles, colors, and options to choose from, you'll be loving your home all over again. Champion's 40% off Anniversary Sale won't last long. Call 888-4CHAMPION or schedule your free estimate online now.
At Briggs Auto Group, we're proud to be your trusted dealership. Now's the time to trade in and upgrade your current vehicle. Or let us buy your car hassle-free, fair, and competitive. Whether you're looking to sell or trade in, Briggs Auto Group makes it simple and stress-free. Come experience our first-class care before and after the purchase. Come see us today at Briggs Auto Group, where trust matters and customers are number one.
Hey, look what's going on at Briggs Auto. Briggs!
Include the library in your summer plans.
We're turning now to some of the biggest health changes in D.C. and how they could impact us here in Kansas. Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics.
And first up, Medicaid. Now, federal lawmakers considering significant cuts to Medicaid funding, potentially coming out to $880 billion over the next decade.
This morning, we have experts weighing in. We're here now with Linda Shepard with Kansas Health Institute, a senior analyst. And Linda, hundreds of thousands of people are currently enrolled in Medicaid in Kansas. So how could this impact them, especially those in rural areas and long-term care facilities?
Yes. When the first announcements came out about the proposed budget, there were these large numbers, $800 million that were being talked about to be cut out of potentially to affect Medicaid. And since that time, there's been a lot of work that's been done. The House finally did pass what is being referred to as the Big Beautiful Bill, and that is over on the Senate side now and will be worked. But the final bill that came through the House did include some changes to Medicaid, but at least at this point in time, nothing as significant as what was suggested when that first came out. So they have they've done some things where they have put work requirements in place for folks. They also are going to do some more frequent checking of whether or not people are eligible. So there could be cuts to the number of people enrolled in Medicaid because of having to meet some of those new requirements, whether it's the work requirements or the eligibility requirements. And so that would potentially impact folks who would be enrolled in the Medicaid program now that might not be able to later.
But then especially in rural areas where, that may be an even bigger issue for them, correct?
Certainly it could be. I mean, again, there's already so many limitations for folks who live in the rural areas as far as access to care. So for those folks who would lose their Medicaid coverage, that certainly would make things more difficult for them.
Now, Linda, what if Congress changes Medicaid funding to a per capita system? Of course, that's been considered. How would that impact Kansas, and what would it mean for, say, hospitals, nursing homes, health centers?
It's that per capita talk has come up from time to time. So far, they have not moved in that direction. But, the risk with that, I think, the states would have some sort of system that would be put in place that would allow them to advise the federal government what the amount that they think they would need under that per capita system. And I think the risk that they run with that is if they underestimate their potential enrollment, and so then those dollars have to come from somewhere else if they were already committed to a certain amount of funding from the federal government. So that's that becomes a situation where the state, if it doesn't want to take on some additional costs, would have to figure out how to keep those costs down so that that they wouldn't have to cover those if the federal government was no longer going to cover them under the way that they currently do.
All right, and we've also seen changes to recommendations for COVID vaccines. Secretary Kennedy ending recommendations for healthy children and pregnant women.
Right.
So how could that shift public health guidance here in Kansas? And also, what are some of the long-term impacts of that?
Well, a couple of things. Those are the way that Secretary Kennedy has explained that those will be recommendations that will be coming down to the states. So they won't be directly dictating what happens, but I think so each state will have that opportunity to decide how, if they want to do something different. But obviously everybody's going to be aware of the fact that the federal government is no longer recommending those COVID shots for certain individuals. And I think, again, total speculation, but if COVID became a more serious issue again, particularly for children or people under age 65, which are not going to be included in the new guidelines, we could see a number of cases, many more cases than we would certainly like to be seeing in the state. So it is really going to come down to a situation where likely clear down to the individual deciding, is this something that I want for my family or for my children or whatever. So it won't be completely unavailable, but it will certainly not be dictated the way that it may have been in the past.
And some of the guidance, I guess, here has shifted in that case as well.
Well, right now, that's why I was saying that federal guidance comes down. Right now, the state of Kansas, we already have certain things in our law in terms of certain vaccinations and things that children receive, but we have that ability to make that, make those sorts of recommendations or guidelines to to our population here in Kansas. The Kansas Department of Health and Environment could certainly make recommendations regarding what that is. But I think it will also kind of depend on the availability of the vaccinations themselves. If for some reason that manufacturing process slows down because of the lack of support for it by the federal government, I mean, that could certainly affect supplies. But again, lots of other speculation about that.
And also, Linda, we know billions of dollars in healthcare grants pulled from Kansas and Missouri. Now, how's this going to impact the services provided for, say, health emergencies?
Yeah, those, there have been a number of grants, and I don't think, we at KHI have certainly been trying to keep track of some of those, but, we have recognized that it's a little bit difficult to really understand the full impact as those those grants continue to get cut here and there, and not really sure where that would happen. I think, certainly one of the things that we have talked about recently at KHI is one of the grants that was cut was a grant that was to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for the Community Health Worker Program. And that program had been going on for some period of time with federal funding, and they got the majority of that funding, but several $100,000 were cut from it now at the end. And so part of what that money was being used to was support the education and training for community health workers, which are very valuable across our state. And that program has lost that additional funding. So again, speculating what might happen to that program going forward if they don't have some of the funding that they're used to having for training.
Yeah, absolutely crucial, especially in times of health emergencies.
Right.
So what's being done right now to prepare for future pandemics and possibly other health emergencies that we could see now that we do have some of this COVID money winding down?
I think that, again, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment and local public health departments have their procedures and processes in place for what they try to do when those situations occur, but I'm currently not aware of any full-blown effort in that area.
All right, Linda, thank you so much. We've got more to talk about after the break, including the Trump administration's push to make America healthy again.
And we'll live up to the hype, that answer, when we come back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Make this summer the best summer it can be with the best audio and lighting accessories. Come get your bike, motorsport, and boating audio and lighting at Car Toys. Locations in Topeka and Kansas City. We have better options, better prices, and the best accessories around, including all your motorcycle audio and lighting needs. From the best brands, Rockford Fosgate, JBL, Pioneer, and Kenwood. Let the party begin and start the fun with Car Toys. Visit us in Topeka and Kansas City.
Grace Med Health Clinic is your home for complete compassionate care. From medical visits to vision screenings, dental care, behavioral health support, and a fully equipped pharmacy, we're here to meet all your health needs. Our dedicated team of providers and staff work together to make every visit welcoming and stress-free, because at Grace Med, you're not just a patient, you're part of our family. Call 785-861-8800 to schedule your appointment. Grace Med Health Clinic, compassionate care for all.
Hi, Clay Sherwood, President of Swims and Sweeps. I'm here with Frank and Dean, the CEOs of Cute, and we're here to show you our pool that we built. You need to go to our website at swimsandsweeps.com or on our Facebook page and check out the other pools that we build. We build above ground pools and we build in-ground pools. And don't forget, after we build your pool, we'll help you take care of it with the Pool Life exclusive collection, the most brilliant clean ever seen. We're here to take care of you and your pool needs.
I'm so glad I called Devon James. I really just needed somebody to look out for me that knew what they were doing. Because yeah, my husband can call and yell at the insurance company, but it's not gonna get anywhere. Car accidents, especially when you're injured, there's like medical bills just add up like crazy. And when you have Devon James, you know that they're gonna take care of it. So they really made things easy to where it wasn't an added hassle by having them, it was just an added bonus. I'm Brittany and I'm an actual client of Devon James.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. The push to make America healthy again is alive and well in D.C.
But will it work? Linda, what do you think?
So I think that there is absolutely an effort. So with MAHA, or the Make America Healthy Again program, in the way that has been rolled out, at least up to this point, certainly there are a lot of areas of health, specifically in some cases related to children, but I think in general, trying to find ways to make the American population more healthy. So I think that is a genuine effort that will be continuing to move forward, and we'll see how it works out.
And I want to follow up on that, Linda. Rome wasn't built in a day, very, very big, very grandiose idea. Yeah. But as you know, America has a lot of health issues.
Absolutely.
What do you think are some small, tangible steps we can take that we can all agree on, Republican or Democrat, to maybe move towards that goal of making America healthy?
I think that certainly things like talking about nutrition and trying to get Americans to eat more healthy, I certainly think that's an effort that's happened in the past, but could certainly be continued. I think there will be probably be another push. Many years ago, saw this push about trying to get people to exercise more, and maybe some more support for that, which both of those things would be great. But you're absolutely right. I mean, making huge changes in the health of Americans is a big challenge to take on, and I think they'll be looking at things like other services that are available to Americans, the kinds of things that children can do to improve health. So there are just a number of issues that I think that they'll try to work on, but you're right, it's not going to happen overnight, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Rob and I talked about this earlier, but when you go to like foreign countries like Europe, just how healthier those foods are. So really looking into more so what our foods have in them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that has certainly been something that I think Secretary Kennedy has really talked about, is the fact that he doesn't think that Americans eat healthy. And I don't know, frankly, that a lot of us would dispute that, but I think that is certainly something that will be focused on, and obviously for children too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with school lunches and whether or not we see some changes with that. We saw a little bit of that with the Obama administration, but so anyway, I think this idea of trying to get the children to become more healthy as they're growing up, maybe they'll retain some of those practices as they grow older.
I got to follow up on that. Yeah, I mean, so in a lot of European countries, of course, like I mentioned, trying to change the society is difficult, but their food options are healthier, but they've also, they've had that a long time as far as like energy drinks and gas stations, sugar-free. Right. The health options are healthier, but of course, it gets very complicated if you're saying, well, these companies can't produce these products, which they've been doing for a very long time, and people are used to. Like you said, doesn't happen right away.
Yeah, I don't think, and I think, that's a really interesting idea of would the government ever get to the point where it would tell companies, what kinds of things to make? But I think one of the things certainly will probably impact food manufacturers is if the federal government starts taking some stands on some particular ingredients maybe that aren't included in certain kinds of foods, and so there may be some certain products that the manufacturers create that maybe would not be as appealing to folks if there were certain ingredients removed. So it would be, that's certainly a way that the federal government could impact that food manufacturer.
Let's continue along with that. We know that, some state lawmakers are embracing Secretary Kennedy's health policies, like you mentioned, Linda, things to try and address issues like junk food, vaccines, fluoride, things like that. So has Kansas seen similar legislative initiatives, and how might they align or diverge from federal health policy directives? So
this past session, so during the 2025 session, the Kansas legislature did pass a law that would be requiring the state of Kansas to ask that for SNAP benefits, so this is the Supplemental Nutrition Program, that the folks that were using that program would not be allowed to purchase candy and soft drinks and those kinds of things. So that had already happened in Kansas even before the Trump administration started talking about that.
Linda, thank you so much. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, then follow us on social media. Follow us on X at InKSPolitics and on Facebook. Just search Inside Kansas Politics.
And we're also going to post the full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News and check out Inside Kansas Politics on KSNT.com for past episodes. And if you have a story you think we should cover, we'd love to hear about it. Email us at ikp@ksnt.com.
We'll see you right here, same time, same place. Have a good day.